welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we're going to talk about Jermell Charlo, Gervonta Davis, and the pound for pound list and the unfair treatment that they are receiving from this boxing media that I believe is, if it's not racially motivated, it's real hard for me to understand what it is. But let's talk about that in this video. But before we get into it, please make sure if you are not already subscribed to subscribe to the channel. Please also share the video and like the video. It goes a long way towards helping the channel grow. Now, Jermell Charlo, excuse me, and this could go for Jermell Charlo too, but Jermell Charlo is the 154-pound champion for the WBC, the WBA, and the IBF, and he will be fighting a man named Brian Castano, who's also a PBC fighter, for the WBO belt in his next fight. So Jermell Charlo is one step away from being an undisputed champion in boxing, and it is going to be real interesting to see what they're going to do as far as rating him in the top 10 pound for pound if he wins, if and when, because he's got to be a prohibitive favorite to beat Brian Castano. When he beats Brian Castano, will he actually make it into the pound for pound list? Now, I will say for sure that he's going to do it, because that is a level of hypocrisy that I don't even think that ESPN and Top Rank, Ring Magazine, and Golden Boy can muster. If Jermell Charlo was to win that fight and not be put in the top pound for pound list, it would be amazing. Now, I do not put it past him to do that. However, the last three people to win undisputed belts have all made it into the top 10 pound for pound. That being Alexander Usyk, Terrence Crawford, and now Josh Taylor, who recently won his undisputed championship by beating Jose Ramirez. So if they were not to put Jermell Charlo on that list, I'm almost hoping that they don't, because in my opinion, that would expose what I think is a quota system in those boxing or in those ranking systems. Now, the reason that I think it's important to bring this up is because there's a lot of confusion about who's the best fighter in boxing or in a weight division, and that is because of the fact that you have so many different sanctioning bodies that have champions. When you have 4 sanctioning bodies, you can have as many as 4 different champions, and that results in a lot of confusion about who the actual best fighter is. So there was a promoter whose name is Ludabella. I got a lot of respect for Ludabella. I think Ludabella also, before he was a promoter with DeBella Entertainment, was the head of boxing during a period of the time during the heyday of HBO boxing. So he's a good guy, definitely knows his boxing. But he said, TV stations and radio and television personalities and boxing fans need to look to Ring Magazine and their rating systems to talk about who the champion is, because there's so many different championship belts that nobody can tell. Take, for example, what's going on at the 147-pound division now with Errol Spence Jr. and his fight with Manny Pacquiao. Is Manny Pacquiao a world champion, or is Manny Pacquiao not a world champion? He beat the champion before. He beat the last champion in the ring, whose name was Keith Thurman, but he got stripped of the title, and now he has a secondary belt or some other designation by the WBA. So is he really a champion when you have Yordenis Ugas, who's the champion in his stead? Who is the champion in that particular circumstance, right? Who is the champion at 147 pounds, period? Because you have Yordenis Ugas, you have Errol Spence Jr., and you have Terrence Crawford. So they're hoping to alleviate that by saying, look, we can go to a system and Ring Magazine is the system that they're looking at, where we can just say the Ring Magazine champion is the real champion, right? Which also adds just more confusion to the equation, because now you literally could have a Ring Magazine champion that doesn't hold a belt. It's just absolutely ridiculous, because that's what they almost did with Tyson Fury. They put Tyson Fury ahead of. I could go on and on and on about the ranking systems in Ring, but they want to push that particular scenario with Ring Magazine. So I think it's important to understand that even though Ring Magazine definitely has a criteria, a set criterion, they only have one champion. They don't actually have anybody in the ring, and what they're doing is they're pretty much doing like a pound for pound list within their ranking system. But so what does the pound for pound system do? The pound for pound do? The pound for pound is nothing but a marketing mechanism for fighters, and they don't have any set standard by which they're going to judge it. They don't have any particular. They don't have any shame whatsoever in how they implement it. So when Jermell Charlo says, does he think, or answers the question, do you think that you're going to make it in and be on the pound for pound list? He says he thinks he should have been in there. Well, shoot, that's the case for several fighters that should have been in there. Just like Gervonta Davis should be in there. Gary Russell Jr. should be in there. If what you're doing is really looking at how you score a boxing match. If you look at how you score a boxing match, you say, how is their defense? How is their aggression? Is it effective aggression? Is it clean and effective punching? How is their defense? And you go through those lists, and then you say, okay, based on that, I think this guy is the best pound for pound fighter in the world. But that is not what they're doing when they have guys like Monster Inoue on there, and they've got guys like Juan Carlos Estrada on there, but yet they don't have guys like Jermell Charlo or Gervonta Davis on there, or Gary Russell Jr. on there. And it just seems, especially if you look at who winds up being on those lists and the process by which they get assigned to that list, they have like 15 or 20 different people voting on them, and then they give them a list of people to choose between. And so you have, and it just ironically or not ironically winds up being people who are all managed by ESPN, right? All managed by Top Rank. I looked at the Top Rank I looked at the ESPN top pound for pound list, and it read just like the roster for ESPN. How are you? And also Ring Magazine. Ring Magazine is literally owned by a boxing promoter. But as long as boxing fans continue to give credence to that, it's just really bad for boxing, man. Gervonta Davis is one of the biggest stars in boxing, but does he get any promotion from the mainstream media? No. And what would the promotion be that they should give him? The pound for pound list. But he fights for Al Heyman. He fights for the PBC, and the PBC is persona non gratis with DAZN, with ESPN, and with Ring Magazine. So, will Jermell Charlo make that list? He should make the list. If he doesn't, that would be that would shame people that I thought were absolutely shameless. But he shouldn't just be on there. Errol Spence Jr. should be on. Errol Spence Jr. is on there, but Gervonta Davis should be on there as well, and he could be asked the same question, because he has division wins in 3 different divisions, and is clearly one of the best fighters in lightweight. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think, and with that, I'm out. Peace.